All right, so is big tech censoring the Republican voices in our country?
Well, if social media had not put its thumb on the scale in the middle of this election, Donald Trump would likely be a runaway favorite to win the election. As it is still not over. He very well could end up as president, but social media has played a heavy role in restricting what people can see and what people can hear. And they're
How dare social media stop fake news? How dare they? How dare Twitter stop Trump from saying he claimed every single American state? Trump should be able just to say he claimed every single American state and he won the Electoral College outright with a supreme majority. That should be allowed, right?
Continuing to do so, even as President Trump tweets about the situation at the ballot boxes across the country, even as he tweets about the possibility of voter irregularities, he is being censored. It's not just Trump. Right? Our own Matt Walsh here at the Daily Wire, host of the Matt Walsh Show,
Daily Wire guy.
He had the temerity to tweet something out that was then censored by Twitter. It happened to be correct. Matt, thanks so much for joining the show.
It wasn't correct. Holy shit.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So why don't you lay out the story for us, what you tweeted and then what President Trump retweeted and then how you ended up in the crosshairs of Twitter's censorship brigade.
Yeah, there was someone tweeted there had been reports about large amounts of ballots that sort of appeared and all were going for Joe Biden and none for Donald.
So they're talking about in Wisconsin when the entire arena shifted because they counted Milwaukee. And when they counted Milwaukee and the mail-in votes from there was a big spike. So when they look at this graph right here, this is what's being spread around. Republican votes, Democratic votes. Okay, so after Milwaukee came in, there was a big spike in data. Because if you have, when you add inputs to this graph, you are going to collect each vote from a certain county, from a certain district, from whatever the parameters are for that. You don't just, you don't get a vote at one of these districts and press a button and add to the tally one by one. You give them like an envelope or, a big file full of election results, and that's where you upload it. That's when it goes into the system. So this big spike right here was because tons of the votes from Milwaukee went to Biden. They said 100,000 random votes went to Biden. That's not how it works. Trump's graph went up too, just very slightly. In fact, my friend brought this up. If you take any graph like this and you zoom in close enough, every input is a jaggedy line. No graph is actually like a curve. Anyone who does like any type of stats, any type of calculus, any type of math knows this. Anything with graphing. It's like a jaggedy line the entire time because each input is different. This was just a very large input. It's not a conspiracy. Anyone who understands how to read any type of data or numbers or anything would know this. But, Walsh shared this, and everyone's mad at Mark Zuckerberg and who's the owner of Twitter, Jack, whatever. But yeah, they're censoring posts like this, claiming that there is election fraud, mass election fraud. That's completely unfounded. I 100% support news stations shutting off Trump when he's talking about this. I 100% support Twitter and Facebook censoring messages like this, because this is actually what can make a democracy collapse. I don't give a shit about libertarian ideals of free speech. That doesn't apply in this scenario. This is direct interference to the democratic process that might end up in a coup, that will end up in extreme civil unrest. Not worth it. So Trump's tweets throughout the entire day are censored, and for good reason. Stop the fraud. There is no evidence of fraud. International experts have said this. Now he's posting videos of different things. This one is like, all of the recent Biden claimed states will be legally challenged by us for voter fraud and state election fraud. Plenty of proof. Just check out the media. What media? I asked the person when I was talking to them to give me a source of this, and they gave me a bunch of right-wing conspiracy sites. No actual news sources, no actual data, and if they sent me a video, it was Project Veritas with someone who already admitted to being paid off to be in that video. This should be censored by big tech. That's all I'm saying. 100%. And we already know there are logical explanations, and easy ones at that, for all their conspiracy theories. Where's Benny Boy?
Trump, it was like 100,000 plus ballots or something like that. 100% for Biden, none for Trump. This was tweeted. I retweeted it and added my comment that this is concerning. We need to look into this and be concerned about this. And then Trump retweeted it as well. And next thing you know, they censor my tweet, which means it's still there, but it means you have to take a couple steps to get to it, and they have all these kinds of warnings and red flags. Look out, it might be misinformation.
Yeah, they didn't even take it down. It's still up. They just made sure to fact check it.
An opinion can be misinformation.
It's not an
I've
opinion.
Never quite understood this from Twitter.
Jesus,
if I'm giving my opinion, what am I misinforming people of my opinion? Because that's
it's not
what
an
it was.
opinion. That's not how that works.
And then it turns out that Yeah, there was a. Now it turns out this was not an example of fraud supposedly, but this was an example of a mistake that was made. Decimal point was put in the wrong place or something. That's what they're telling us. Well, the point is, there something concerning did happen. There was something weird that happened, and
He literally just said, there's a very clear explanation for this, but something weird. But still, something did happen. Don't worry.
On Twitter, on social media, we were talking about it. People were reporting it. And we should be able to do that, especially during an election when people want to know what's happening and everything's delayed. So
the president of the United States is a little bit different from a random a-hole on Twitter. He's not your drunk uncle. I think that was an SNL joke. Oh no, that's what the one interviewer from like NBC asked him. She's like, you can't just say this shit. You're not someone's drunk uncle, because he shared that conspiracy theory about like the Bin Laden assassination being staged in like Nevada or some shit in the middle of middle America.
But Twitter is playing the role of kind of editor in chief and saying these are not opinions that we want expressed on our platform, and I don't think they should be able to do that.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing how social media have really cracked down on all of this. The reports in the last few minutes. There's a group on Facebook called Stop the Steal, and the basic idea is that you are going to monitor election fraud. There are hundreds of thousands of members, people who are attempting to presumably weigh in to stop election fraud, and apparently this is bad, so Facebook simply shut it down. It is incredible to see how social media have really, as I say, put their thumb on the scale here. You've been ranting about this for a while.
Hashtag putting your thumb on the scale by counting votes and shutting down conspiracy theories. It feels bad, man. When that's your final, your final bow, like, oh, the entire process is fake, guys.
So this battle is going to outlast
I don't like big
this
tech.
election
I don't love
cycle,
big tech,
obviously.
but
What do you think are the steps that ought to be taken here with regard to social media at this point?
Well, I think I'm always skeptical. I'm like one of those conservatives. I'm always skeptical about getting government involved and that sort of thing. But I think we're at a point where the easy answer.
Shout out to the 3 people who subscribed and everyone that liked this video. Starting off just streaming again. It's pretty cool to see that,
Usual conservative answer of, well, let the free market take care of it. I think we're beyond that. There is no free market solution to the social media monopoly, Facebook and Twitter.
Oh, that's
funny. Unless someone's got $100 billion laying around where they want to start their own Facebook or their own Twitter. But aside from that, it's not going to happen. And they do exercise a lot of power to manipulate and to sway our elections. This used to be something that liberals pretended to be concerned about, and they seem to be less concerned about it now all of a sudden because it's going in their favor. So I think
there's a big... My God, if there's a big like neo-Nazi plot to destroy democracy in America, and it's founded upon disinformation, and Trump's going to use that disinformation to enact an election coup, and the president's literally lying about them duplicating ballots and them faking all the ballots and them not certifying ballots, like that's not the same as a conservative sharing some fringe post offhanded in a random year that's not one of the biggest elections in American history.
There's a role for the government to step in.
Yeah, we'll get into the numbers in a little bit.
At the very least, these companies
Georgia
should
would
be
be a
honest
tie.
about what
Hannah's
they
looking
are,
super
the service
favorable.
they provide. If they have an ideological bent that they're trying to promote.
Well, you have to remember in Georgia, there's a lot of ballots they actually did not accept. There were 40,000 in a majority, I think, black and also Democratic county that they had to turn away. And voters can still resolve those ballots. They still have time to do that until tomorrow night. So hopefully those numbers come in. If there is a recount, you start getting into provisionary ballots, which will help Democrats. I think, because Democrats have a much better GoTV operation for the election. They're much better at informing voters on what to do, what proper steps to take. So hopefully those provisionary ballots will help in a recount.
Have a certain ideology, a certain opinion that they want to promote on their platform, they should have to be honest about that and tell people about it. At a minimum, I think that should be the case, but probably we can go further than that.